Greetings, my friends. This is Mark Hoverson in Phoenix, Arizona, and today we're going to talk about mobile engagement. And we have a very special guest. His name is Michael Rutherford in San Diego, California. And a little backstory on Michael. Over the last 3 years, Michael has generated with his team 100,000 separate mobile campaigns. And we're going to go into a little bit about what that means. And he's also, with his team, generated multiple millions in mobile commerce. So we're going to go into his mindset and what he knows that maybe we don't know and should know. And then we also have a fun little game at the end. So buckle up, sit tight, and without further ado, Michael, are you there?
Hey, Mark, I'm here. How are you? Glad to be with you.
I've never been better. So let's get right into the good stuff. You're a leader in Rippln. We're going to talk about Rippln in a moment, but deeper than that, just tell us, what is mobile engagement?
That's a great question. What's interesting about it is everybody's always curious, the mechanics and the specifics behind what mobile engagement is. And, everybody's noticing that the world has gone mobile. They've noticed everybody has got their faces in their cell phones. And what's interesting, we've, kind of adopted a tagline of go where the eyeballs are, because if you can find the eyeballs, you can find people's attention. Mm-hmm. And whether you're an advertiser trying to reach customers, you can't market to where their eyes used to be. You have to market to where their eyeballs are today. If you're a mom trying to reach your kids, and if there's any moms watching this, I'm sure there are, you've noticed if you want to reach your kids, you've got to reach them on their mobile phone. So mobile engagement is really connecting with people on the one device they have on them absolutely all the time, which is their mobile phone.
Yeah, and you sent me an image which I think is pretty telling from the difference in a big social event at 2005, a historic event, versus 2013. What does this picture mean to you? Because you've actually monetized the mobile engagement. Well, what is this, when you see this, how do you observe this picture, and what does it mean to you?
It means really a few things. One of the main things is it means the switch or the transformation that's take place on how people perceive the world, how they get news, how they connect with their friends, how they do life has absolutely radically changed. And people in today's world don't spend time on their laptops like they used to. They don't read newspapers like they used to. They don't experience life like they used to. They're taking pictures with their cell phones. They're checking in on Facebook with their cell phones. They are tweeting their friends from their cell phones. They're capturing life's moments with their cell phones. And what's so funny is on the top picture, you see one cell phone that's just 8 years ago.
Yeah. And she, there was the early adopter, like who's that wild James Bond-like person catching this on a...
Think about a cell phone with a camera on it 8 years ago. What a Wild West... early adopter. Today, that was probably like a chocolate razor, by the way. But today, look at the bottom photo. Everybody and their brother, I don't care if they're 8 years old or 88 years old, they've got a mobile phone.
I like it. So let's get to the second question. And again, everybody, stay tuned because we do have an interesting little game to play. So my next question is, do you think this mobile frenzy of constantly checking our phones, almost to probably addiction levels at some times, but do you think it's just a phase? Is it just a phase? Is it a temporary thing where it's dying down or it's going to fizzle out, or what do you feel?
It's interesting to learn when you dive into the deep stuff, the thick stuff. When it comes to mobile, you start peeling back layers, and on the surface, it definitely feels like a fad because of how quickly it's happened. Right. The mobile adoption happens so much faster than the web adoption of people getting on their computers. In other words, when Microsoft and Apple really first came out and people got a computer for the very first time, it took a long time for just the average and ordinary wage earner in the world to have a mobile phone. But the adoption of mobile, or to have a computer, but the adoption of mobile has been so much more rapid. And you've got places around the world where they never got a computer, but they do have a mobile phone. And because of that fact, what we're seeing is the convergence of all other mediums moving onto the mobile phone. And what I mean by that is people are using their phones to do things that they used to do with other devices. I mean, just think about it. If you've got your phone on, you think about there's so many things that we do with our phones today that we used to use another device for. And
Yes.
what I'm getting to is people get news from their phones where they used to get news from the television or the radio. They get deals and discounts of from businesses or restaurants and things nowadays from their mobile phone. The phone has really become the Swiss Army knife of somebody's life. It's not just this hokey little place where people can chat with their friends. It really has become a tool that has influenced every area of their life.
So what you would say is, and this is kind of a comical little picture that 20 years later and all these things fit in your pocket. And you've got the video camera, and we had one of these. I remember in the 80s we got one and we thought it was the coolest thing ever. And we'd carry it around in a big suitcase to our basketball games and the radios and things like that. And now, so to the question, is this a phase? What's actually happening now is that the mobile phone is literally becoming the Swiss Army knife. It's actually increasing usage, and with apps, more and more things are folding into it. From augmented health devices that you plug in, and you can get diabetes readings, you can do breathalyzer things, you can do blood work. I mean, it's crazy what is happening. Actually, more things are rolling into the cell phone and into the mobile thing than we even thought at the start. So I don't think you think it's a phase, is what I gathered from that. I think it sounds like it's a velocity that's picking up.
Yeah, there's no question. And one of the uniquenesses too is when people talk about phases and fads, they're very flighty. They're kind of here today, gone tomorrow. One of the uniquenesses about mobile is so many people's everyday lives, not just aspects of their lives, but everyday aspects of their lives. I mean, many of them, most of their lives have become so integrated into their phone, or their phone has been integrated so much into their lives. You would almost have to alter every hour of your day to not use your mobile phone, because we've become so reflexive and so dependent upon it. It's crazy. I've never seen a device do that in history.
Well, it's blowing everybody's minds the deeper you go into this. So you are what I would call a super splasher in the Rippln. You're all over the world. Your Rippln is, waving across to so many different countries, and you are very committed and in love with the vision of Rippln. So my question would be, what do you like best about the ripple effect? And then we're going to throw out a challenge to all our viewers, and I think we're going to have a little bit of fun with it in the comments below. But what do you like best about the ripple effect?
Since we kicked this project off and really began the pre-release of the community, one of the most exciting experiences for me, there's really, I guess, two main ones. The first of which being watching us connect the globe on one community, with one conversation, with one change to the way that people see the world. I've watched, just in the first 3 or 4 days of this conversation being spread around the world, I've watched people I'm looking at my screen on another laptop right now. We've got hundreds of people in Ethiopia connected into the Rippln conversation, which started in Dallas, Texas, literally just days ago. But I've watched it already ripple out into Ethiopia and Israel. I mean, we've got people, I'm not kidding, in Iceland, Greenland, Sri Lanka, places that I didn't even know I know there were countries, but places I didn't even know were countries. The teeniest little islands, in French Polynesia, have dozens of people in the Rippln. So how quickly, by design and by definition, how quickly the ripple effect has already touched and brought together all four corners of the world.
That's amazing. And that there's a story where it ties to you. That's what I think, just the gamification of Rippln, the simple game of watching the social connectivity, and the fact that the tech companies, in terms of vision, the tech companies know that your influence is that powerful, Michael, and up until now, they're the only ones who harvest it, right? So Rippln is literally restructuring the way tech companies operate, and I think it's a very exciting conversation. So number one is that you love just the connectivity and watching it grow from a viewer standpoint. What's the second thing you were going to say?
You kind of hit the nail on the head, which is there's a story behind every ripple that's been caused. So whether it's my personal ripple of people that have built around the world and really wrapped the whole globe a bunch of times over, it's the individual stories of how those things happen. Like I've got a great friend of mine I've known for years who, if you'd have told me 10, 12, 15 days ago that he'd have a ripple of thousands of people, hundreds of them in Norway, hundreds of them in Spain, hundreds of them in Russia, I would have told you were crazy.
Right.
So I'm watching my great friend of mine introduce it to a couple of his friends from church. I mean, he's never done anything like this. So when I say like this, I mean built a global audience. That's what I mean by never done anything like this. He's never built an audience of people that stretched the globe or, connected all the continents and made them almost like one community, one family, one cloth. And as you watch these stories unfold, just his ripple alone has spread all over the globe. And every individual new little icon on the map, as it starts, just populating all over the world, every one of those has got not just a story behind it, multiple stories behind it because of how he introduced it to his friends at church. Yeah. And how his friends at church introduced it to his brother, and his brother referred it to his old friend he used to grow up with in the Ukraine, and how he referred it to his buddy he used to play soccer with in Norway. It naturally and organically has grown like that. So that's been fun for me.
The stories, I know, I mean, there are thousands. We have hundreds of thousands of people in the Ripple, and the stories are hilarious. Like literally 2 ripples down from me, there's a event promoter who's friends with Scottie Pippen, the NBA All-Star legend, Michael Jordan's teammate Scottie Pippen, and he sends me, I find out he's in my Ripple, and he sends me a picture of him and Scottie Pippen, and it's just so funny because, I grew up watching Scottie Pippen, and, these stories are just colossal. So here's the challenge that we want to end with, everybody. Michael and I want to do a challenge. In the Facebook comments below, we want you to think of 3 devices that you used to use individually, like a flashlight, that you used to hold individually, but are now integrated into your phone that you've used in the last 30 days. And simply comment below what they've been. All right, so to everybody who has watched this interview, Michael, thank you so much. Wealth of wisdom, great energy. And here's what we want to do now. We heard from Michael, and now we want to hear from you. So please share and like this video and spread it, and let's keep Rippln.